window, Mark! He demands it! Open the window, Mark.
Mr. Barlow wants to meet you, Mark.
I'll set you free, Danny. You have my word.
A lot of actually throwbacks to Stephen King's other work in this. I saw one to It, Christine, and I mean, the thing about it is with everyone, kicking this movie around, I actually had a pretty good time watching it. I had no expectations. I don't expect anything to be good anymore. So I was like, I put it on and I'm like, okay, let's see what this is. And I found myself like, this is pretty fun. I mean, it's not the Schindler's List of horror, but it's a pretty fun movie.
Yeah, I agree. I having said it, it creeped me out a little bit because
Yeah.
because it's not my genre. I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
done. I'd read some of the criticisms, seen some of the ratings as well,
Yeah.
and I thought that no, they did a good job. I mean, it was spooky, creepy. It certainly had I thought Louis Pullman in the lead role, like after having seen him most recently in Lessons in Chemistry, a
Mhm.
very different role for him, and
Yeah.
pulled it off.
I mean, I know this movie was actually made a few years back and its release was delayed. Why that was, I'm not sure. I'm no longer at Warner Brothers to know. That can mean many things internally. Oftentimes, it could mean they're unhappy with it. And I'm curious to see what the original script looked like or what may have been cut. But for one of the things I do like about this movie, and it's a classic sin of mine, is I like movies that get right to it.
Mhm.
And this is about vampires. So my philosophy is get to the vampires. And these dudes are in the basement with the casket like 2 minutes in, which in the original, it was like 35 minutes in before the vampire gets delivered to the Marston house, and what I liked about that was we know where it's, or at least I know where it's going. I know the previous versions of this, and I know they're delivering a vampire. Like, let's rip this thing open and fucking unleash hell. Go to it. The other movie that Hooper directed, and I loved Hooper, but Hooper,
Mm.
um, and Hooper took a lot of abuse over Poltergeist, and Gunnar Hansen, who was the original Leatherface, told me at dinner at the Rainbow. I think that's where it was. We had a lot of dinners, but that Hooper was basically an absentee director at times. He would kind of have a breakdown and vanish. I'm not sure if that was the case on Salem's Lot. There's a YouTuber out there who will relitigate history that he himself was not part of, but thinks he knows. And I don't know. But Hooper, I loved, and he was a fun guy to be around. And I felt like he got a really good mini series out of the book. But I also felt like there are things that drag on, like the. Now, if you're a King purist, you love all that,
Yeah.
right? I'm not. You probably are because you're a very cerebral guy.
And yet I'm
But
not, because I will say, uh, going back in the day when they read King short stories at campfires in Boy Scouts, of course,
yeah, yeah.
um, uh, terrifying. I couldn't, like it drove me
Really?
crazy that they read that stuff. I was just like the one with the washing machines. I'm like, I wish I'd never heard. Now, even thinking about it now, I'm gonna have nightmares.
You know,
I have a very vivid imagination, by the way.
you do, and you're very creative, and I can see why this would get to you. I'm not the monster fan of his work, although I respect it,
Yeah.
as other people are. I mean, I take flack for saying and thinking this. I think his version of Christine was actually improved by what Carpenter did with it, and I know that's the equivalent of like burning somebody's Bible. So I apologize, but I felt like making the car like more like a demonic force rather than have it haunted by the previous owner was a better call for a feature film. And that's the trick. When it comes to a film or a miniseries, it is a different art form based on the previous. So it's not going to go the way you entirely want it to go. You're trying to capture the spirit of a thing. I thought Tobe Hooper did that pretty well, but I'll also say there's parts of it where I don't need it. I feel like it's deliberately done for a 2-night television special. Like I don't need the romance between. I'm like, this thing's about vampires. Let's sharpen the stakes and get after it. And so for my own personal taste, this new version, it gets going, and there's not this unnecessary. I'm sorry, I feel it's unnecessary. King fans would probably tell me to shut the fuck up, but I don't necessarily know I need the conflict between the teacher and the writer that was in the second version, the Rob Lowe version, between him and Adrian Brower, who, by the way, Adrian Brower was a brilliant actor, and my understanding, a brilliant human being, but he played every role like he was more intelligent than everyone in the fucking room. Mm-hmm. And it would sometimes make me nuts. Probably because he was more intelligent than everyone in the room, right? Right? Rest in peace. We just lost him.
Yeah, yeah.
He was incredible in Glory. The guy could act like a fucking juggernaut.
Yeah, no, he elevated most of the stuff he was in, but this had a pretty fantastic supporting cast as well, you know.
Yeah, it did, and everyone's good in it. I love that they gave. If we're talking about the recent version on Max,
yeah,
and again, I'm going to say it's a fun movie. You're not going to you're not going to lose anything by watching it. But I love that they gave the girl in it that haircut. Because that's the hairstyle everyone had in elementary school. Like they really, and they were minimalists. Like the actor who played the lead kind of played it to the point. Like there was not a lot of scenery chewing from these guys.
Yeah,
I didn't think. Do you agree?
Very much agree. Yeah. And I thought, to be honest, I thought the thing was pretty taut. I think some of the criticism I was reading about it was that, that it looks like it was sort of slashed together. Like some of the cuts, it looks like there's pieces pulled out of it that were,
right.
that little haphazard. But I personally thought as a result, it was pretty tight, the whole thing,
Yeah, maybe, I thought so too.
Maybe too tight for some people, but I thought it worked.
I am Mr. Floats. NMOSD can blind you, paralyze you, or even kill you in a matter of minutes. But we're close to a cure. With our cure comes a cure for cancer. Go to the Gussie Jackson Foundation. Donate today. Thank you.